Character design is an extremely complicated field, and getting into it can be somewhat, who are we kidding, very overwhelming. So today we'll try to provide you with the perfect starter pack to get you initiated. Beginning with software. Technically speaking, any program that you can illustrate on will serve as a great basis for your character design journey, ranging from the absolutely free to the ludicrously expensive. But let's try to give you the rundown on some of the more popular software, as well as others that harbor some extra benefits. Photoshop. How do we know Photoshop is good? It's not like it's the industry standard or anything. Used for everything from photo manipulation and editing to illustration and even animation, Adobe's poster child is more than a suitable program for creating characters, as evident by some legendary character designers such as Phil Barraza, infamous for his superhero designs for DC animated projects, and more recently for the design work of the entire cast of the Legend of Vox Machina animated series. Ah, was a tongue twister. One of the more iconic designs from this aforementioned show is that of Vax'ildan. His raven imagery, accentuated by his armor, implies that he is a cunning and speedy individual. The broken-up cape not only serves the functional purpose of making him more appealing to look at from behind, but it also makes his overall silhouette more interesting, since without it, he looks relatively unexciting in terms of shape length. Clip Studio Paint. Frequent dwellers of this channel would be no strangers to CSP, as we have discussed this program on more than one occasion recently, and if you would like a more in-depth review on it, then you should check out our What Clip Studio Paint is Used For video. So, to keep it brief, what Clip Studio offers over other programs, next to its objectively superior brush engine, is a 3D viewer built with customizable 3D figures and a perspective tool, allowing you to cut down on a lot of time. The 3D modeler is ideal for simplifying the posing process when creating character sheets, and the perspective tool should, hopefully, be of a lot of service when designing complex props like weapons, vehicles, and even mechs. Yes, those count as characters as well. No one should be expected to draw a gun nor a Gundam without a perspective tool, otherwise it's just cruel. Grease Pencil. This last candidate is an unexpected one, but to riff off of the 3D viewer in CSP, why not just skip the middleman and use a 3D program? Marco Bucci explains in depth how to take advantage of Blender for your 2D concept work, which we recommend you check out. In his video, Draw Character Concepts from Any Angle and Lighting, he delves into using the 3D modeler along with lighting physics to speed up your work significantly. That, and you can immediately rig and animate whatever it is you create in Blender directly, so it will save you a lot of extra steps in the long run. Next to these big three software, you can honestly use any illustration program accessible to you to design characters. The list includes Krita, Paintool Sai, GIMP, Procreate, Sketchbook, among many others. The big three, quote-unquote, are the most used in the industry, or they simply provide unique advantages you wouldn't find elsewhere. If push comes to shove, you can always just rely on the good old pencil and paper, as is still done these days. Doing it digitally, however, does offer an advantage in the form of layers. Layers. The most common feature of any digital art program, regardless of how premium they are, is layers. More than any other field, they are crucial for character designs for one simple reason: iterating. While working digitally, layer styles and effect layers provide a massive boon during production for adding visual effects and lighting to your illustration. But more crucially, they serve to save the multiple steps of any given process in a single file. They also serve to explore multiple versions of the same idea while only doing a fraction of the work. Using the same base of either a silhouette, anatomy sketch, or even 3D model, you can iterate on an idea without having to redraw the same base over and over again. And to hammer this point home, doing character exploration is crucial during the earlier phases of designing a character. Let's take as an example League of Legends' most recent release of Milio. Looking at the earlier iterations of this character, you can see that the design team has tried many different ways to visually represent the magical wandering young boy with imaginary friends going on mystical adventures. And even beyond earlier explorations, it's important to envision the character in different situations, using their abilities or interacting with their environments. This entire process is significantly simplified through the use of layers. As a final point, figuring out color schemes is easiest when isolating every color into its own layer, and saving different color schemes for later comparisons. Moral of the story, layers are the simple, best shortcut to accelerate both the illustration and iteration process when designing characters. But iteration is only one step. What about the rest? Before we continue, let me tell you about Skillshare, which is a platform that has hundreds of classes about animation, drawing, illustration, and several other creative fields. We've got you guys this course from Skillshare about character animation. The course is an introduction to character animation. It is taught by Jared Freitag, who is going to show you the fundamentals of character animation, and it covers animation techniques using Duik Basil and Adobe After Effects. The Skillshare platform offers a wide variety of additional related courses, and the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will receive a free month of premium membership. Alright, now back to the video. Character design stages. You have your selected software, so what's next? The most important facet to keep in mind is to be fully aware of what kind of character we are designing, as in the medium the character will be depicted in. Creating a character meant for traditional 2D animation is a completely different beast than tackling one designed for video games. We'll get into more details about the different types of characters in a bit. It's just generally worth being mindful of these things, as they will be a big factor in determining the level of detail that you can afford to add to any given character. That being said, character design shares a very similar process across all mediums, so let's explain each step. Step 1. Research. It is important to determine in a very early stage the genre, setting, and the demographic, as well as the type of story you are looking to tell. Those are general guidelines that will determine the artistic direction of the entire project. So naturally, they will also be the main cornerstone that supports the entire character exploration process. A kid's sci-fi show will not have the same visual language as an adult noir murder mystery. Once those factors are determined, it is important to gather up a rich and varied visual library of references that will serve as a jumping-off point for Step 2. Brainstorming. During this time, the design team just throws ideas at a wall and sees what sticks. Depending on how clear of a vision you have in mind for your character's visuals, this step can be merged with the next one. The objective here is to translate the vague combination of concepts established during the previous step into visuals. What you draw here will be ridiculous, designs that will never make it into production, but they will open up gateways towards more completed final products. What you see here is the ideation phase for Dr. Mundo from yet again, League of Legends. Some of the ideas are so insane that it is impossible to transition them into a video game or animation. My personal favorite is R. Gives me flashbacks to a certain traumatic anime experience. Can you guess which one? This step focuses on finding the best combination of shapes and visual indicators and story elements to convey what the character is and what they stand for at a single glance. If you'd like to know more, we already have a video that covers shape language that you should also check out. Oh, look who's here! Step 3. Iteration. This is where you take the strongest concept from the brainstorming phase and start pushing it further beyond. The process usually involves using the same silhouette and shape combination to create different versions of the same character, and see which one is the most appealing or more suited for the project. You can think of this as like the different versions of the same superhero, say Batman, usually made up of the same set of shapes, but given different details depending on the context, the genre, and the medium that they will be represented in. These explorations involve costumes, props, and even different color scheme variations to see which suits the project best. And last but not least, Step 4. The reference sheet. This is where we take the final design and break it down into all of its little details for the animation team, 3D modeler, or 2D rigger to do with as is necessary. These character sheets involve turnarounds and expression sheets, prop details, and even SFX animation guides for their abilities. For a good example of this, let's take a look at character sheets and expression sheets of Armin from Attack on Titan anime. This expression sheet showcases global guides to hair, face, and eye shapes, all the way to very specific details like where to place shadows and highlights in order to keep the style as consistent as possible between different animation teams. With the design process out of the way, let's talk about the different types of characters. Breaking down different characters will, much like everything, depend on context. The first would be the medium the character is made for, the second would be the visual style, and within each of these there is a lot of variation, nuance, and overlap. Characters can be classified according to the role they play in a story, which would significantly affect their visual design. You wouldn't design a main character the same way you would design a background grunt, for example, but within the same vein, you won't design the same character the same way if they were going to be primarily animated in 2D or 3D or used in a medium like comic books. Here, we're classifying characters according to their visual complexity. Characters can also be broken down into 3 big categories. The role they fulfill in a story, simply referred to as a role, things like protagonist, antagonist, and foil, etc. all fall under this umbrella. The depth in which the character is explored narratively, which is what is more commonly referred to as type, covers things like dynamic characters, static characters, symbolic characters, etc. And finally, character archetypes, which in a way combines both previous aspects while sticking to a set of narrative and visual shortcuts. There's a near limitless number of character archetypes, but these can generally be broken down into 5 major tropes. And to analyze them, let's take a look at the cast of Voltron legendary defenders. The leader, usually the most balanced in terms of silhouette, although it can vary, usually composed of more stable shapes like squares and rectangles to signify stability and reliability. Shiro fits this visual role perfectly. The Lancer usually serves as a foil to the leader. Their characterization tends to be put in contrast to that of the leader, so naturally the shape language will be contrasted to that of the leader as well. Keith, as Shiro's Lancer, is put into direct contrast thanks to his smaller, less confident posture and silhouette. The Heart. Being more passionate and emotional, they usually tend to keep all the other characters grounded. To visually represent this gentler aspect, they tend to have flowy and soft silhouettes with a lot of rounded shapes. This role is filled perfectly by Princess Allura. The Brawn, usually made up of the biggest silhouette, the combination of more rounded shapes implies them being more of a gentle giant, while sharper shapes implies them being dangerous and unpredictable. With a name like Hunk, his big imposing round physique portrays this perfectly. The Brain, tend to have the smallest silhouette of the bunch along with scrawnier posture. Most of the emphasis would be put on the shape of their head, drawing attention to their most important asset. Out of the entire main cast, Pitch is by far the smallest and has the most interesting hair shape, drawing more attention to his face, with the rounded glasses accentuating the friendly and innocent nature of the character. Keep in mind, any combination of these tropes and visual shortcuts can be mixed and matched depending on your needs and what you are looking for in your own project. The Heart can be the leader and the Lancer can be the Brawn simultaneously. You can translate these different facets through shape language. These rules can also apply to less narratively driven projects, personality, threat level. All of these things can be communicated with the simple use of shape and color, and that's why the research step is the most fundamental one, and we encourage you to do your own. This was a heavy video worthy of such a heavy topic. Do let us know in the comments below about your thoughts, and don't hesitate to let us know what you want to learn about next. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you soon. Take care!